Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Patriot Party, where truth, transparency, and constitutional principles come before politics. The Patriot Party movement is focused on re-empowering we the people, restoring accountability, and putting America first through honest conversations and real solutions. Today's conversation sits at the intersection of self-defense, due process, prosecutorial power, and the Constitution, and what happens when an ordinary citizen finds himself inside a system they thought was there to protect them. My guest today is Captain Barry Todd, retired U.S. Army officer, Ranger Brigade Hall of Fame member, and author of Stand Your Ground. After over 2 decades of military service and a successful career in business, Barry faced a personal self-defense situation that led to serious criminal charges and forced him to confront the criminal justice system from the inside. Captain Todd, welcome to the Patriot Party. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome. I like your motivation there, man. That freaking.
Oh man, thank you so much. Are you ready for a question?
Any questions? Go.
Okay. You spent over 2 decades in elite military units, Rangers, Airborne, multi-divisions. How did that experience shape your understanding of responsibility, restraint, and the lawful use of force?
Wow, that's an in-depth question. Well, first off, number one is honor. Honor is doing the right thing no matter the cost. Most people try to use the definition of integrity, which is doing the right thing when no one's looking. Well, you can do the right thing when no one's looking, but that doesn't mean you have the courage to do the honorable thing, which is the right thing no matter the cost. That's number one. Number two, it taught me how to be calm under pressure. Nothing was harder than going through as everybody here probably heard of at some point, Ranger School. Out of all the things that I've been through in my life, the foundation of Ranger School gave me the discipline and to be able to be calm under pressure to bring organization out of chaos. And then my faith in Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Without his guidance, I don't know how I would have ever gotten through the over 26-month ordeal that I went through.
Woo. Yeah, I have the utmost respect for you boys, man, or men. Y'all are. I've seen what y'all go through, and it's crazy, man. That is you put some crazy put your body through some craziness. That's for sure.
You do.
So, without getting to anything legally sensitive, walk us through what happened the night outside the restaurant.
Well, simply, my wife and I were out with 4 other retired military couples, and we were actually at a restaurant bar that was owned by another retired military couple, a Vietnam vet, a helicopter pilot. And my wife and I were threatened, and then I was viciously attacked, not by one man, but 2 twice, one of them wielding a knife. And when the police arrived, they arrested me with no due process and no investigation within hours. And the entire thing was on video, Matt. They had 16 cameras in and around the building. They didn't look at any of them before they charged me with attempted murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault.
Oh my God! So before we go any further here, for the guest and for me, where did this happen?
In Yuma, Arizona.
In Arizona?
Yes, in Yuma, Arizona.
That just doesn't even seem. That just seems so. I don't know. Man. Kind of walk us through the situation. How it happened. What happened. So right now, I'm getting a picture of you're out with your wife, some military buddies. You got a military buddy that owns the bar or something. You're there having a good time. Walk us through what happens.
Well, this guy that one of my other retired military friends, it was acquaintance from his employer. He was there alone. He seemed to be, and he went over, talked to him, and then he invited us to join us. And his name was Rocky Height. And Rocky, as the night went on, he got very aggressive. The T-shirt he was wearing, people were making jokes about it. It said, certified cougar hunter, don't go on a trophy coug hunt without your morning wood. And pretty disgusting. And that's why people were making jokes about the shirt. But As the
Yeah.
night went on, he seemed to be fine, but then as the alcohol wore on for him over several hours, he became aggressive toward the ladies. And then he wanted to fight me. And I told him, I said, I'm not going to fight you. I said, I'm over 50 years old. I'm too damn old to get in a barroom fight. I said, and that was it. I walked away. I walked away 3 times. And I told my wife, I said, I need the keys to the car. She was my designated driver that night. I had had a few beers, but she wasn't drinking. And I said, I need to get a fresh can of Copenhagen out of the car. So I went out to the car. This guy saw me go out. He followed me out there. His friends were already out there. And when I tried to come back in, he attacked me. And he literally, when I tried to get around him, he picked me up and spun me around by my waist. He was 6'3", weighed about 100 pounds more than me, picked me up and swung me 180 degrees and threw me head first into a cinder block wall.
And then you probably commenced to getting up and whooping his tail with that special
Well,
training.
actually, at that point, the bouncer came out.
Really?
And, yeah, a little short dude by the name of Albert, because it was right outside the front doors, but the doors were propped open. Even though it was February 28th, it was warm in Arizona that evening. And the doors were propped open, and he comes out and gets between us, and he goes, hey, you guys need to calm down, da-da-da-da. And y'all were friends in there because he saw him at our table. And I said, we're not friends. I don't even know this guy. The next thing you know, I get punched on the side of the face. And I said, okay, I'm done. I told you I wasn't getting in a barroom fight. You know, because at the time, I'm licensed federally. I don't need to be charged with anything as a fee-only financial advisor registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission. I'm leaving. So I said, I'm going to go in and get my wife and my belongings, and I'm leaving. And that guy, Mr. Ryan Height, or Rocky as they like to call him, he goes, you're not going back in there, and that B, using the B word referencing my wife, is mine. And that's when I warned him I was armed. Don't mess with me. The bouncer didn't do anything, Albert, and the guy goes, go get your effing gun. And I said, okay. You know, a lot of people think in Arizona you have to have your weapon on you. In most states you don't. And so I went and got my weapon out of my vehicle, came back, tried to go back in. He was blocking the door. I never pointed my weapon at him. But I said, I'm going through that door. I'm going to get my wife and my belongings, and I'm leaving. You know, now I'm armed. I got it down by my side, and the whole thing is on video. The guy attacks me again. I'm holding a Ruger SP-101 357 with hollow points. And he attacks me again. And then his buddy pulls a knife and attacks me from behind. And they pull me onto the ground, and that's when the weapon discharged. And he really stupid. He was really drunk out of his mind. But at this point, he's about to break my arm. And I don't know if your listeners can see my arm or not. But
Yes.
the 2 bones that go down your arm here, and when you squeeze them together, it tightens the grip. All right? And I have my hand on my weapon in my right hand. He's trying to wrestle it from me. His buddy's got me with a knife from behind, laying on my back.
And there's a bouncer right there?
Bouncer's not doing a thing. Yep.
Just standing there.
Just standing there.
Oh, my gosh. That's negligence. I mean, it's something.
And,
I don't know.
He
But
turns around, and he has the weapon pulled into his stomach, and he's got both hands on my arm trying to rip that weapon from me. And I looked at him right in his eyes, and I said, this is going to suck for both of us. And the weapon discharged at that point, and he fell off of me. And then the other guy let me go, and that's when all my family or friends and my wife heard what was going on outside. They came out, broke it up, got everybody away from me. And then the police showed up 5-10 minutes later, slapped cuffs on me, threw me in the back of a car, never read me my rights, nothing.
oh my gosh. So after the incident, obviously you faced major charges, you said. But that's the part many Americans, I think they struggle to understand. When someone believes they acted in self-defense, but the state prosecutes Where does that line get drawn? Do you think the issue is ambiguous statutes, prosecutorial discretion, jury confusion, political incentives, or do you think it's something else?
Well, first off, in my case, the police officer was inept. He was incompetent, but he was honest. All right, so I'll give him that.
Okay.
But he was incompetent. But my prosecutor, without a doubt, had an agenda. He
Okay.
didn't like the fact that I used a weapon. All right, and you know, I was so naive in dealing with the police. I went in and they took me into an interview room, and I told them what happened. You know, I had nothing to hide, and I knew Arizona law. I was licensed to carry at that point in about 35 to 40 states. And I knew Arizona law very well. I had taken all my CCW training. I had had all my training in the military. I remained calm through the whole thing. And they came in, and this is how incompetent the police are sometimes. And you don't realize this. And they don't have a continuing education requirement like we do out here in the civilian world. At least not in Arizona. I heard of most states don't have a continuing education because all the laws had changed in Arizona 5 to 15 years earlier. They had what is called justification defense. And I'll explain that in a minute. But the police officer, after I tell him what happened, Matt, he comes in, probably about 15, 30 minutes later, and he says, read this and sign it. And I looked at him and I said, Detective, I told you, I don't have my glasses on me. I can't read that right now. I can't see it well enough to read it. What is it? He goes, it's a charge sheet, Mr. Todd. And I said, a charge sheet for what? And he goes, attempted murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault. I said, I told you it was strictly self-defense. His exact words to me were, we have the whole thing on video. I looked right at him, Matt, and I go, great. Have you looked at the video? His exact words to me were, not yet. I said to him, Matt, oh my gosh. And you know that Ranger time period, that Ranger mentality came out in me, and I looked at him, I said, oh, you're a real intelligent life form. The oxygen is flowing to your brain, you stupid SOB.
Oh God. So I got to say this for our listeners and you. So I grew up in a family of lawyers. I used to say I grew up swimming with sharks, and I helped in the firm. At 8 years old, I was sitting in the jury box watching them try trials. And one of the first lessons they told me when I was young: if anything ever happens and you have a run-in with the police, we don't care if you've done anything wrong or not. You enact your Fifth Amendment right. You have nothing to say until you speak to counsel, and shut it down, because you never know who has an agenda. Did they meet their quotas? Because everybody gets quotas. These state troopers pull you over because at the end of the month, because they have to meet quotas. And so
Yep.
you never know. So you have to protect yourself and make sure your rights aren't trampled on.
Yeah, I learned 3, 4 valuable lessons out of this. The first one was because I had let my insurance lapse, or my protective coverage for criminal charges, a few months earlier. I'm like, nobody's ever going to mess with me.
Uh-huh.
It was probably about 6 months earlier. So that's number one. Make sure you have appropriate insurance and coverage. And don't worry about the civil. If you have good homeowners and an umbrella, that will cover your civil. But make sure that on the criminal side, you have insurance to cover criminal. Number 2, keep your mouth shut. Don't say a word to them, because they took my prayer where I was praying for this guy and tried to use it against me, that I admitted my guilt to God. It's unbelievable. And so just keep your mouth shut. Don't say a word. And I was so naive. I believed so much in the justice system, and I thought police were honorable and did the right thing no matter the cost, just like I did with the military. Well, what I found out was they're more concerned about protecting the blue than they are about. Now, I'm sure there's some out there that don't feel that way, that do the honorable thing, but the majority of what I saw in the Yuma Police Department was not that. And then the third thing is, you are your the leader of your legal team. If you go and get my book on at standyourgroundbook.com, all the proceeds are going to a foundation that we've set up to help other people wrongfully indicted. You're going to read in there where at one point I nearly fired my attorney because he was not listening to me. All right. And he had skipped a step in the legal process. Remember, you are the CEO. You're paying the attorney. Do not be one of these guys go in there, well, you tell me what I want to do. And, because they'll tell you to plead out.
You are the boss. I always tell people that they work for you.
Correct.
Yes.
I fired my first 2 lead investigators within 5 weeks until I found one that I liked. And one of them was the one he recommended and demanded that I hire him up front and give him a retainer of $10,000. And I said, okay, I'm going to hire him, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not like your normal client. I will be involved in this, and if I need to, I will fire people. And so he got fired. He got fired within 2 weeks.
It's hard to find a good attorney. I set the bar pretty high myself because I grew up around it. I know what I expect. I call them gunslingers, like old Western gunslingers. Good attorneys, when they're battling out, I call them gunslingers. And my best luck, if I've ever needed to hire one other than family, like outside of somewhere, is go and sit and watch them. Then stop them coming out of the courtroom and talk to them about what you got going on. That way you're hand picking, because they'll say you a bill of sales. All of them are good salespeople, but a lot of them are not trial attorneys. They're good with paperwork, but they're not good in front of the judge. They're not good on their feet, and that gives you a chance to really see them in action. Not just on paper, because a lot can look good on paper, but they're really not that good when it comes time.
Yeah, and to go back and finish answering your question, you're exactly right. The attorney that I had that was he was actually referred to me. The guy that got me out of jail, my wife used to work for. All right, and he was pretty good, but this was way too big for him. And he told me that. He goes, I can't handle your case. He goes, I'm a criminal attorney, but I'm used to small stuff. This is a big deal. My bond was $500,000 cash only. Never been charged with anything in my life, and $500,000 cash only. I was like, you got to be kidding me. No surety bond, nothing. And so then I turn around, and he recommends to me Michael Kimmerer. And he had already talked to him, and Michael Kimmerer was one of the 2 attorneys on the Miranda rights case. At this point, he was 75, 76. So in 1969, he was arguing in front of the Supreme Court and got Miranda through the Supreme Court with his partner, which is great. But what he didn't do was, when he took my case, he did not go back and look at the new laws that had been passed and that everybody that was taking CCW training were being trained on. He skipped that step. And after the 3rd grand jury, where they came out with an indictment again, I got a little upset. I said, I don't understand this, because I was going to testify in that one. And the prosecutor convinced them that they didn't need to hear from me, that I wasn't going to say anything differently. Unbelievable. In a grand jury. Because you have, as you know, you have no protection in a grand jury.
No, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the way that whole thing runs down. Which kind of leads me into my next question. So I kind of want to widen the lens a little bit here. If your case represents a systemic weakness, where exactly do you think the structural flaw was? Is it in your stand your ground language? Is it the burden of proof? Is it evidentiary standards, grand jury processes, or plea bargaining pressure? If we can get kind of specific here.
All the above. The system has been set up over the past 50 years, Matt, to curtail our rights under the Constitution.
Right? Yes, and that's why we're pushing back with what we're doing.
Exactly. My brother, who died in 2021, his father, in 1966, stepbrother, all right, was a sergeant major at the 82nd outside of Fort Bragg.
Okay. Oh, I used to live near Fort Bragg.
Yeah. So he woke him up at 2 a.m. in the morning, Matt, says, come out here on the porch, boy. Now, he had 7 brothers and sisters. There were 8 of them total and his wife. And says, come out here on the porch. Walks out on the porch, and there's a dead man. A big-ass, huge man dead on the front porch. Blood everywhere. He says, grab that hose over there and wash this blood off the porch. 10 minutes later, a sheriff comes pulling up his driveway. They lived out in the country. And he says to him, walks up on the porch and goes, what happened here? He goes, ask him, the sergeant major, Ralph's dad said, and he pointed to the dead man. He goes, I can't, he's dead. He goes, exactly. So what I'm going to tell you happened is what happened. Don't try to add anything into it or influence or create a crime that wasn't here. That man was breaking into my house. I have 8 children and my wife in there, and I put 2 shots in his chest before he got through that window. Any questions? And that was the end of it. All right? Nowadays, if you do that, if they're on the outside of the window, you know what's going to happen.
Yes.
They've created these stupid laws, the lawyers have, to do that. And in my case, my prosecutor told my attorney in February of 2015 that that he was missing the elephant in the room.
Okay.
This was all on recording. Everything that's in the book, it's 100% accurate outside of the fact that we changed names for some people that would not sign disclosures.
Okay.
And of course, those were the people that don't really look that good.
Okay, so I want to dive in a little bit, and I'm doing this for a reason. And
real quick, let me share this with you. My prosecutor, okay, Matt, said you're missing the elephant in the room. Mr. Todd came back with a gun, and my attorney said he was allowed to do that under the law. His exact words were, "I don't care. He could have come back with that gun up his ass." He did not care that I followed the law. That's on tape, right? That's
okay,
the kind of attorneys that you're dealing with. They don't care what the law reads because they have prosecutorial immunity. Since 1983, they have 100% prosecutorial immunity.
Okay, but a lot of, we like to say here we're about solutions, not being part of the problem, part of the solution. The endless criticism, the public, they want some solutions. They're ready for, endless criticism just brings part of the problem. So we're trying to be part of the solution. So the reason I'm kind of diving in on this question and asking a little bit first before I go into the reason, when we went over the exact weaknesses and structural flaws, and I was, kind of listing them off. The stand your ground language was one of the things that you said, all of the above. So if I'm correct now, because this is state, not federal, the stand your ground language is written in state legislation, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So is the stand your ground language vague, which allows the prosecutors, because a lot of times vague laws give the prosecutors more leeway to abuse the laws, and then they let the judicial system figure it out, which allows, that's why we say vague law breeds bureaucratic overreach and judicial activism, which is what we're seeing right now. And so in order to attack the root of the problem, what we created, are you familiar with our policy producer, the federal policy producer, the software that we built, where you can take an idea, a problem, or data points, put it in, and it spits you out a sponsor-ready bill built on constitutional guardrails. We have 8 proofs of concept right now on our website. A healthcare bill that's currently in the top 3 bills in D.C. that our Washington advocate is pushing to replace Obamacare and save the American people $2 trillion a year. Built completely on data points, not donors. We have the first in history constitutional gun violence bill. Does not violate the Second Amendment. It's the first in history, built on data points, not donors. So I'm asking this because right now we're scaling this up as an educational tool for the American Institute for Civic Leadership to use for students in teaching the middle school and high school curriculum as a competition tool, and for the American people to create a think tank so people can help solve the problems they're dealing with every day. And it's built on data, not donors. So it's America first, nonpartisan, cannot be partisan legislation, bipartisan legislation built for the people. And I ask this because the healthcare bill came from a podcast episode called Fixing America, where the guest brought on an idea and we created legislation that is now being presented in DC. So I ask you, because we haven't done a proof of concept on state legislation. And if you've got ideas to fix this, or if there's a problem, I can take that and put it in our software and give you the legislation to fix the issue at the root of the problem.
All right. First off, if you wanted to fix it across the country, there needs to be a Supreme Court ruling that's overturned that gave prosecutors absolute immunity. If you can't do that, what I'm recommending with my state, but I want to check out this AI thing you got that's you're looking at the data.
Well, I'd like to stop you right there because legislation trumps Supreme Court rulings. The Supreme Court rulings are to interpret legislation. So if they redid the legislation, then it would trump any Supreme Court ruling, and that's how you get it at the root of the problem. And that's why on the policy producer, we get any idea that falls within the last 2 years of news cycles, we get the opportunity to push in DC with our resources. But anything that falls without that, the one thing that we cannot quantify is passion. And you have passion because you went through this experience. So this will allow people that have gone through these experiences to get the tools to fix the issues.
Yeah, my case was sent back to the grand jury not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times.
What?
Because the prosecutor refused to show the video to the grand jurors, present the correct self-defense laws, and that was all because there is no required for continuing education. What people don't understand is that in all stand your ground states, and that's the nickname for the law. Some places might have them called that, but in Arizona, it's called justification defense. All right, all your other, let's call them your blue states, California, Illinois, they still have affirmative defense. The moment you say self-defense, you have to prove that it was self-defense once you're charged. But in a justification defense state like Arizona or like Texas, the moment you say it was self-defense, it's up to the prosecutor. They have to presume that you're innocent, that your actions were justified because of the fact of what you were going through, and they have to prove that it wasn't self-defense. My prosecutor totally ignored that, and I don't know if it was because he didn't know it when he first started the case, and then it got all publicized all over the place, and then he couldn't let it go. I don't know. But the judge in my case, thank God he had respect and knowledge for the law, because he saved my ass.
And that kind of pulls us into our next question. It kind of feeds right in. So the right to self-defense ties into the Second Amendment, due process under the 5th and 14th Amendments, equal protection, and the presumption of innocence. From your perspective, where did constitutional guardrails feel strongest, and where did they feel weakest?
Strongest was at the judicial level, the judge level.
Okay.
The weakest was in the entire system below. $500,000 cash only bond. Then I was put on what is called pretrial services. I had to report to the probation office every 2 weeks to a pretrial services young man that was right out of college in the probation office. He would try to psychoanalyze me. They took my guns. I wasn't allowed to drink, not even or travel. I had to ask permission to travel anywhere. And then once a month, I would get an unannounced call and have to go do a blood and urinalysis test while a 21-year-old watched me hold my tillywhacker and pee in a bottle. Now I'm a decorated disabled veteran, and with no criminal history, and I'm being put through this kind of crap. It was unfreaking believable.
Without going too much.
The whole system has been set up for the last 50 years to hold the American people down.
You're absolutely right. And without spinning off into politics, and we try not to get into that too much. But you know what's crazy is I remember reporting a few years ago how those guys, those illegal immigrants, had jumped the police guy and they were beating him, and all those videos, and they get let out on their own signature, and they're not even supposed to be here. There's no guarantee they're coming back. There's no house or job or anything to bring them back. But yet you, a decorated soldier who has served your country above and beyond what most soldiers serve their country at that, had to go through all this, but yet they don't.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yep. And we're held to an entirely different standard. It's unbelievable. And then the judge. Now you say you know law. The judge got so mad at the prosecutor that after the third grand jury, he watched the video. This was before it ever went to trial, and made a findings of fact that I did follow Arizona 13421.
You were extremely lucky to have a judge like that.
Because he was getting pissed at the prosecutor because the prosecutor wouldn't show him the video. And he wrote that, and he said, Mr. Todd followed 13421, which is defensive display of a firearm. See, my prosecutor's whole problem is I went back to my car and retrieved my weapon as defense because the guy was keeping me separated from my wife and it threatened her.
Multiple guys. So just because you retrieved it was just to make sure that they didn't do anything. You didn't go over there looking for trouble. You went to go get your wife.
I'm an expert marksman. If I wanted him dead, I would have shot him 45 feet I was from him and put a freaking bullet in his brain. And I didn't do that.
So I mean, I've got a question a little bit on the flip side of this. So there are real cases where people misuse self-defense as justification for unnecessary violence. So here's the question: how do we protect the right of legitimate self-defense without creating legal shields for recklessness? Where is that balance, and what safeguards prevent bad actors from hiding behind good laws?
You're always going to have bad actors. I mean, the key though is that, first off, I want to step back. A lot of people are under this misnomer in the United States that the police are there to protect you. That is a fallacy. That is not their job. Their job is to investigate and arrest people for crimes, period. You know, they get all upset with them and they don't jump in front of bullets in one of these school shootings. It's not their job to jump in front of a bullet for you. That's a Secret Service job, but that's not their job.
But their oath is to protect and serve. I mean, if they choose not to follow their oath, that's on them.
Well, no, protect and serve, that's usually a slogan. It's already been held up in the Supreme Court that that's not their job.
Really?
Yes, it has.
Wow.
Been. And so for people to think that, they've lost their minds. Number two, who is, in your family, Matt, who's responsible for protecting your family?
Well, I mean, me if I'm here, but I mean, my wife if I'm not here. But yeah, I mean, obviously, if we're going out, I'm the man. I need to, and I'm not trying to be sexist, but I have more muscle. I have more, I mean, I'm supposed to do that. And you're trained. You're well done. Now, my daughter, she may be the one. She trains 5 days a week to be an MMA fighter. She's 11, and she's been doing it for years. She wants to be an MMA fighter. She does jujitsu, boxing, wrestling, and school, and she's getting ready to do Muay Thai. So she may be handling the issues, when she gets a little older.
Yeah, but either way, we always think that it's, so I need somebody to protect me. Well, it's not your job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's your job to protect yourself. My wife carries, my kids carry. I trained them all that they are responsible for that. But I also train them that they are also responsible for the actions and the use of those weapons. That's a key thing. And if you don't teach them that, then that's on them. Well,
it's responsible use. It's the same thing that we're doing right now with AI in education and everything. It's responsible use. If somebody is using it to make the final decision to take jobs, that is irresponsible. It should enhance humans and make them more productive so they can work at 10 times their pace. So like in our curriculum with middle and high school with the American Institute for Civic Leadership, the curriculum, you can elect into AI or not. That's choice. You don't have to do it for the curriculum. The curriculum curriculum is basically introducing American exceptionalism back into school. It is introducing civil discourse. One side gets given, when they're in middle school, it's historical topics. High school, once they've been trained in debate, it's hot topics like news stuff that's being ruled on today in the Supreme Court. And then they debate the issue. One side gets given the living document, Constitution, the other side, the originalist, and they find out what resonates best with them. We also have a media literacy part in there, so they can start to make informed decisions because it starts there. And we just got it fully aligned with Louisiana standards with civic educators here, and they're actually using it as supplemental curriculum right now before we get full parish adoption.
I love it. I think it's great.
I mean, we have to do better as a people. If you look at the longest lasting republic in history, it's Rome. Rome lasted roughly about 5 times. I think we're getting ready to be 250. Rome was about 1250. And the two things that caused Rome to collapse on itself, two of the main things, was political corruption and media misinformation. What mainstream media was back then, it was rumor mills, propaganda, and that caused the collapse. And we need a realignment because everything is so polarized now, and there's so much divide and split. And it just, I mean, it's not really like that, you know, and I didn't realize that because I'm in a red state, but I went to visit my daughter who's really big into art and stuff, and she does these art festivals in San Francisco, California. You know, super, super blue. And I go out there and I'm at an art festival helping her set up, and I'm meeting all these, you know, very liberal art people. And we're talking about the Patriot Party and the Constitution and our curriculum, and they love it. And they're like, you know, the media has things so misportrayed. We are not that far from y'all. We just want to agree to disagree on certain issues. And that is what we have lost. We have families who won't even come together for Christmas and Thanksgiving because of who they voted for. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I will tell you what's caused that. In my opinion, my humble opinion, I am a amateur history buff, I guess you could say. I don't have a degree in history, but I learned very young, and I love the words that you just used there, republic. I love most people, especially young people today, and well, let me caveat that. What's caused it? Number one, they took God out. All right, that's number one. All right, and whether you like it or not, we are a Christian Judeo society. 50% of our Constitution is based on the books of Numbers and Deuteronomy out of the Bible, and that is a fact. You can go read the Founding Fathers. 21 of them, the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence, were theologians. And then if you look, you know, everybody talks about the first sentence of the Declaration of Independence, but I will tell you the last sentence is more important than the first sentence because it talks about how they have faith in their divine creator and that they pledge their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. Those 3 key words. What is sacred honor? When I was a young boy, my mom made me look that up using an 1800 dictionary so that way I would understand what it means. And that's where the definition of honor comes from. It's doing the right thing no matter the cost. And then these kids today, they don't know the difference between totalitarian regimes, a democracy, an oligarchy, fascism, and a republic. You know, democracies have been tried throughout our history at all. So that was number one, they took God out. Number two, they have been destroying our education system. And whether you agree or disagree, you know, having everybody that are educators having a degree in education and not having experts teach a specific field, it's dumbing down our society. So then they don't challenge people by having them debate arguments like they still do in England. It is so important that we have debate clubs. When I was going to high school in the 70s, debate club was very big, very big. You were able to get up there and argue these facts. Nowadays, they don't do it. And then when you ask somebody, you ask anybody that's graduated from high school in the past 30, 40 years, you ask them, are we a republic or a democracy? You know what everyone's going to say? We're a democracy. 99% of them are going to say that.
We're a hybrid, but I want to.
We're a constitutional republic. The only thing that's made
a democratic republic. I mean, we're a mesh of both. I mean, that's why we elect our officials and don't have a complete democracy because there's too much chaos. But I want to first on the faith. I hear what you're saying. I don't normally get into that because whatever relationship you have with whatever creator you have is completely subjective. That's your relationship with your creator, right? And there's no objective way to not an objective way to talk about that. So I don't talk about that. But what I will say is that no matter what your faith was, when the country had more of it, I feel like we were better off.
We were a lot better off.
A lot better off. Now, what I want to say as far as like the education, so what kind of brought this movement into like what kind of brought it together, the epiphany, whatever? 1 week last year, it was the end of the year sometime, I think it was September or so. Two studies came out, two polls in 1 week. One said that over 30% of Americans thought it was going to take violence to get back on track politically. The other was less than 1 in 5 Americans knew the three branches of government. So I tested that. I tested on people with their master's and doctorate degrees, and they knew 2. They didn't know 3. So I said, wait a sec. This is a systemic failure. This has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with income. It has nothing to do with education. This is missing. So that's when I said we need a non-violent generational change, something to realign us to look back at all the stuff we've learned with hindsight and to realign us. Because there's some things that we just couldn't see 300 years ago.
But again, you're going to go back, and I do care about what the religion is. I've read the Quran. I know Sharia law. And I'm telling you now, it will not survive here because their religion is their politics. So, if you're one of those that feel that that is not the case, well, then you're fooling yourself. All right? I'm telling you now, it will not work in the United States. And just like Wilkinson said,
when you say will not work, what do you mean will not work?
If they are following Sharia law, you have to, women can't go to school. All right? And it reads in the Quran under Sharia law that you can lie, cheat, steal, murder to advance the kingdom of Allah. Period.
But now I'm not. Obviously I'm not an expert in Islam, but I've read some on it, a few books, and as I have I
the Quran and Sharia law,
multiple religions. But there is moderate and the moderate practitioners that don't believe in the strict stuff with the schools, girls not going to school and all that stuff. And then there's the strict followers that are only a few percent, kind of like extremists, But religion is not something I really normally get into. Like I said, it's.
My point is that I was just countering that, but on the other side, on the education, Matt, you're exactly right. A guy by the name of Saul Alinsky, have you ever heard of him?
No.
All right, you need to go read on him. All right.
Okay.
Back, he was head of the communist socialist parties in the 50s and 60s. Hillary Clinton did her thesis on it. And I don't care what political side you're on. I'm just telling you facts here. All right. Because I have voted Democrat. I have voted Republican. All right. I don't care. I'm just giving you the facts. He wrote a book called Rules for Radicals.
Okay.
And it said what you need to do to change America into a totalitarian socialist regime. And
Okay.
you've been witnessing it over our history for the past 50 plus years. All right?
And that's why we have to get back to the Constitution. And
Correct.
truth and transparency. Those are everything that this is about.
But you're missing the point. The point here is that he had number one on his list that you had to do was separate the American people, and this was written for America, separate the American people from their God and their history. Number two, take over the education system. Number 3, take over the healthcare system. This has been a movement. I've lived through it. I'm 63 years old. You're young compared to me, and I'm telling you right now, I've lived through it. I've watched it, and I love what's going on right now. And I know you're saying that this is, you don't like to talk the politics of it. I get it. Right?
No, it's not that I don't. If I talk politics, I have to just say this movement is nonpartisan, and I can't have it mixed in. So what I have to say, of course, I have an opinion. I vote, obviously, but my opinion is subjective, and I don't want it mixed with the movement because the movement is nonpartisan. Period. But yes, I've got an opinion on certain things. Do I think that in order to get back on track, it's going to take a realignment of Christianity? If you want to realign with it, of course. But do I think that's a criteria of it? No, I don't think one religion. Now, do I think a criteria is the Constitution? Yes. If the Constitution was written by people that were very religious, that's cool. Does it incorporate the Bible? Yes. And there's good things, very good things in it. But do I think it takes Christianity to align America? No, I don't think it takes that because we have to be free. That's part of the Constitution, freedom of.
Correct. I agree with you 110%. But with that, I'm going to step back for a second. Where does a society get their morals from?
I think unless you're a sociopath, you're born with, and your parents help teach you what's right, what's wrong, but you're born, you know when you're doing wrong.
Okay.
You know it.
Okay, great.
It's intuitive.
Okay. I love that answer. Thank you. All right, next question.
Okay.
Let's flip that around a little bit further. All right. In the religion of Islam, how did they take over Iran, that used to be a Christian country?
Okay, but if we're going to go back and say that, what about the Crusades, where the original Christianity and Catholicism felt threatened and went and killed numerous people? If we live in the past, we don't have a future. We can't go back. It's not about where you've been; it's where you're at. We have to learn from what we've done wrong.
I got that. I wasn't talking about the Crusades. I'm talking about current day, though. Current day. All right.
Current day. All right. Yeah, but you have to remember those societies.
It goes back to Wilkinson. All right.
Okay.
He was, I can't remember his first name, but he was the Speaker of the House of Representatives in 1848. And on his final speech in front of the House of Representatives, he said there's two ways to control man. One is through the point of a spear, the other one is through the good book, the Holy Bible, because that's the only one where Jesus focuses on love, joy, taking care of your fellow man, and all that. None of the other religions do that.
Well, I think that's saying, there's two ways to make somebody loyal. They either fear you or they love you, or they do some of both. And I think that probably comes from that. Like I said, I think that at its base, most religions are about bettering mankind. Most religions, not this. I took 18 months to read nothing but. I read hundreds of religions, about hundreds of religions, to go on what I called my own spiritual journey. I took a sabbatical after I sold a company for 18 months and read everything I could get: mysticism, Christianity, Judaism, everything I could get, and I came up with my own conclusions. But if you look at I think the smartest comment I ever heard someone say that I'll agree with, and you're probably going to push back with, but the smartest comment I ever heard someone say is, religions are like river and God is like the ocean, and all rivers lead to the ocean. There are bad things in all religions if we look back and point them, because they get perverted and manipulate them. But at their purest, when they are first formed, it is about the betterment of mankind. And I cannot push back on that as long as that's what we're doing, is the betterment of mankind.
Oh, you want me to say something now?
Oh no! I was just.
I'm going to disagree with you on some of the religions. Some of them I absolutely agree with you. Most of them I do.
Have you ever read the 5 pillars of Islam? The 5 pillars of Islam, like what that whole religion is based on. Not the extremism, but the 5 pillars. It's to help your neighbor, to do. They are all good things. It's when you get in the Quran and read into it, and people read stuff into the Bible, that's not there, but they read it in there, and the same.
Accountable too.
Yeah, everybody needs to be held accountable. You're absolutely right.
And we hold them accountable too. And now,
yeah. So
to the education side, that's the key thing though, is this has been going on for 40 or 50 years. We have dumbed down our society, and they cannot, and it's not their fault. They're ignorant.
Let me paint a picture for you. I want to push back. I don't want to call our society ignorant. I want to call them uninformed. They're not informed. They haven't been informed, and it's by design. I think it's by design.
Well, that's what ignorant means. It means you're
I, I,
uninformed.
I know, but uninformed is. I don't want to go around calling people ignorant just because they don't know something. I mean, if somebody tells me I don't know something, well, you're ignorant. I don't want to say that. Okay, well, you don't know it. Let me teach you. You
Well,
know,
ignorant's not a bad word, man. It's not
but
calling
most
you
people
dumb.
would. Yeah,
It's
I know,
saying that you're.
but if I was talking to you and I said, well, I don't know that, and before you told me about it, you said, well, you're ignorant. How would I take that? So I don't want to say that to everybody right now on the air. Well, if you don't know this, you're ignorant. No, it's just by design. It's been left out, and we need to put it back in. And that
Well,
is too why we.
now we're talking semantics because that is the definition of ignorant.
Okay, semantics. I don't want to call people ignorant. So I'm just
You're
saying I'm not going
taking
to
it
call.
as a bad word. I don't take it as a bad word. I will tell you when I'm ignorant on a topic because of the fact that I don't know it. You know, I
Yeah.
don't know about certain things in life, and I'm going to tell you that. Prior to me being arrested, I was so ignorant on self-defense law in Arizona, you would have it would have been unbelievable. I had to dive into it myself. That's what ignorant means. It doesn't mean you're stupid.
I look.
Stupid
I don't.
means you
I
don't
know
know.
what ignorant means. I'm just perception is a lot, and I don't want people perceiving that I am looking down on them, thinking you are ignorant because you don't know what I'm trying to teach you. It is here for you. It is there. I'm not going to call you ignorant. If you want to, that's fine.
I'm gonna
I'm
call
not going
you.
to do that. So,
I'm just
so I
saying
have
that
another
most
question for you.
society is been, as you put it, uninformed.
This is a better way to put it. I just feel like this is a better way.
Yeah.
I don't want to call the American people that don't know. So if you could leave Americans with one principle about responsibility and force, what should guide someone in a moment where their safety is on the line?
Remain calm.
I always tell my daughter too when she's in fighting, if your mind is clouded with emotion, you cannot think clearly.
You
You
can't.
have yes. And that's why they tell lawyers in law school, even if you represent yourself, you have a fool for a client, even if you're a lawyer, because you emotionally get involved and you need to look at it
You can't
without
separate.
emotion.
And
Yeah.
it's so hard in a situation like self-defense or something else where you are trying to, how am I trying to say it, Matt? Where you're trying to, remain calm because it is emotional, just like that night it was for me. My wife was threatened at that point.
Oh
Okay,
yeah, your wife gets called names, threatened. I mean, my God, who's not going to get emotional?
yeah, I've already been punched, thrown into a cinder block wall. At that point, the adrenaline's flowing. You have to be able to control that adrenaline and be prepared, but keep the emotion back. Move with a calm purpose, a calm, resilient purpose, and that's what that's it. I don't know.
And I have nothing to say till I talk to my lawyer. Don't say nothing.
You live and you learn.
Oh, absolutely. Hindsight's always 2020.
Hopefully that never happens to me again. I pray to God, but if it does, I will turn around and I will not say a thing to my attorney. And it's sad that it has to be that way. That you can't speak truth to power, and it's so sad. I mean, I remember when it got sent back to the grand jury the fourth time. On the prosecutor got upset and demanded a preliminary hearing. We didn't even have to put on any evidence. At the end of the prosecution's case, and it was scheduled for 3 days, his case was 6 hours in the preliminary hearing, and the judge dismissed it right there. He looked right at him and said, Mr. Todd followed the law, and there's no probable cause here. He was justified in his actions. And their whole point was, well, I could have walked by him as he was blocking this double door. He wasn't blocking the whole thing. And finally, my attorney got so mad at the police officer when he kept pressing that point that my attorney just stopped and said, Your Honor, I'm done with this guy. He was just mad. I'd never seen Mike Kimmer, a 78-year-old man, get that mad in my life. He was just infuriated with him because of his ignorance. I hate to say that.
No, that's that. I can deal with that. I can deal
Right.
with it.
So the judge goes, and then the judge goes, prosecutor, do you have any follow-on questions? He goes, no. And the judge goes, well, I do. And I go, oh my gosh, what's he going to ask? And he looks at him and he goes, Mr. Torres, Detective Torres, if you had been assaulted the way Mr. Todd had been assaulted, and you had had to brandish your firearm the way Mr. Todd did, would you have walked by that guy and exposed your back to him? And he goes, excuse me, Your Honor? He goes, okay, I'll rephrase the question. He rephrases it again. He still doesn't want to answer. He goes, answer the question. Would you expose your back to him? He goes, well, no, but I'm a police officer. And the judge just goes, got it.
Yeah. I'm really glad that everything worked out. We're sitting laughing about it. Well, I'm sure it was not a laughing matter at the time. It's good that we can do that now. I'm glad everything worked out. And hopefully, with what you're doing to help people, in the same instances, that will help as well. We'll have to talk a little bit off camera about some of the nonprofit and patriot advocacy, which we're doing later this year, which might coincide with what you're doing. So we'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. If you'll just hang around, let me wrap it up, and I'll talk to you in just a sec.
Can I go ahead and tell them where to go for my book one more time?
I'm going to put the link on the description. They're going to have, we got you. I got you linked. So, Captain Todd, thank you for joining the Patriot Party and cutting through all the noise with clarity and practicality. To everyone listening, we'll include information about Barry's book in the episode description. As always, here at the Patriot Party, our goal is not to tell you what to think, but to help you think clearly, critically, and independently. And remember, America first, not America only, because we lead by example.